Hey parents, Dr. Andrew checking in here, and man, this is a big one that we've been talking about recently. This conversation, this video, this topic is gonna bring up a lot of questions for you, but hopefully answer some as well, and give you some food for thought on this very present topic of sickness and illness and kids struggling. How do we feel about that? What's going on? Well, let me start with this, premise that we've got to accept. It's that kids will get sick. The goal of a healthy, thriving, well-adjusted child is not one that never has symptoms. It's one that maybe has them a couple times a year and lasts a couple days instead of a couple weeks every other month, right? So the goal isn't no symptoms. The goal is an efficient, effective immune system, because we need those challenges, right? Our immune system needs to get some reps in. It needs to get its work in so that we're able to fight stuff off quickly, and so that it doesn't start skewing in that other direction of overproduction of antibodies and autoimmune challenges and so many other issues. So we want to not be afraid of symptoms. We want to reframe how we think about that, because it's not necessarily a bad thing. And this is especially a topic right now because, we've termed this winter season as cold and flu season, which, to be honest, I think would be better off termed the sun went away and so we're less active, and then we had a bunch of Halloween candy and a bunch of Thanksgiving pies and Christmas cookies and all this extra sugar, and now we're also not really moving and there's extra stress. Right, it's not so much the weather got cold, it's that our life changed and we had all those other negative variables. But the weather is a factor, right? I'll admit that. The seasonal changes, the extra pollens and antigens and allergens that are going on is important. But what's way more important is how we're handling it, how we're adapting to it, and how we take care of our bodies. So it's not that over the winter time we're just destined for these issues. We have to approach it differently and think about it differently. So coming back to what's our philosophy here, what's our perspective? When we get sick, it doesn't mean we need to run to the drugstore. It doesn't mean we need to run and have a bunch of extra sick visits. It might mean we just need to take it easy. We might need to rest and let our body heal and let it work through that challenge. So if we don't get past that point, we're really gonna have an issue here, right? So let's start with that assumption that it's okay if we have symptoms and we don't need to rush off to a medical provider to do a sick visit every single time we have a little bit of sniffles. Let's understand what's going on here better too, right? Let's understand what triggers these things. I'm maybe jokingly talking about the extra sugars and candies. That's a real factor, but there's other ones too, right? This season of life is a busy one for families, right? School is kicked off, and it seems like every year there's more activities, there's more sports, there's more extracurriculars, and that is just non-stop on the go. We're doing so much. And that busyness means that it kind of depletes the tank, right? It depletes your system. Maybe those other energy resources that could be going towards immunity, that could be going towards rest and recuperation, are going towards soccer or hockey or craziness of life, right? Whatever the thing is for your family, it is busy. That's something we hear all the time from people, that life has a lot going on. So that's a big trigger, right? We have busyness. And then there's other things that are not necessarily bad things, but just life, right? Growth spurts are a big one. We've talked about a lot just this week. We've got a ton of kids who are hitting those growth spurts, which is great. We want our kids to grow. We want them to get bigger and taller and stronger, but that strains the system, right? That elongates and that physical changing of our body, right? You've seen how fast kids have grown. It's like some of these middle schoolers and high schoolers, it's a summer goes by and they add 3 inches in height somehow. That is a physical strain on the body. And as everything else catches up, stuff like lymphatic drainage, neurospinal tension, right? That neurological tissue moving, it gets a little bit stuck, right? So even if they're a long-term Thrive Wellness kiddo that's been doing great, we see growth spurts are times that those illnesses are triggered, that ramped back up. So that's a big one, growth spurts. And other stuff, if we go back a little bit to the younger ages, it's teething, right? Those first couple, 6, maybe 12 months, on the way till 2, 3, 4 years old with molars and some of the bigger ones. Teething is another thing that ramps up our immune system. We have an open flesh wound in the mouth, so the body ramps up a fever a little bit. It has the immune cells a little bit more agitated and ready to, be on guard if there's an invader for that open wound. So teething is another one, depletes the other reserves, depletes the energy in your body so that there's more susceptibility to other stuff showing up. So we can have an understanding here of why we have more coming at us. Life is busy. We have these good things happening, and it makes us a little bit more likely to deal with these little hiccups in the immune system, right? Because listen, I'm a dad too. I've got 3 boys. I would love if a healthy, thriving kiddo meant that they never had symptoms, meant that they were never up at night, they were never coughing, they were never dealing with anything. It would make my life easier. I would be all about it. But that's not the case. And because I understand how health and healing in the nervous system works, I'm okay with that. It's not easy, but it's okay. So if that's the case, if we can acknowledge and accept that kids get sick and it's not an emergency, it's not a problem, how do we handle it? What are we gonna do? That's the question. Do we build up their health and their healing and their adaptability, or do we suppress the symptoms? Do we hide what's happening, which ultimately leads to some bigger long-term challenges and doesn't really let them get on the right track? So what does that look like? Building up might mean we take it easy, right? It might mean we back off on the schedules. We're not going to school, even if we're kind of borderline, right? Maybe they got a little cough, a little irritation, they're just a little bit drained, but you can push through it. Maybe we don't. Maybe we take an extra day to rest. We take a day to chill. Maybe we get moving still, right? If you're feeling up to it, if your kid's feeling up to it, we stay a little bit active. We get some fresh air. Movement, like we were talking about with the growth spurts, movement gets lymphatic drainage going. It gets our energy going. As long as we're not overdoing it, right? We're not going and doing some intense workout when our body's a little bit run down, but we're just staying active. We're maybe getting a little bit of a sweat, a bike ride, a walk, a yoga activity, right? That's gonna help healing. That's gonna support our body. There's other extra things we can do, stuff along the same lines of like cold therapy, right? Cold tanks or the ice chambers. Those get stuff moving in a different sort of sense because it expands and contracts, dilates and contracts blood vessels, gets blood flow moving in different ways too. So movement is a big one. Adjustments, man, that's your cheat code. If you're listening to this and you're a part of our Thrive family already, you've got a cheat code because jumpstarting that neurological healing makes everything else easier, right? So that's a big one. We want to add in extra adjustments if we've got immune systems lingering or immune challenges lingering, or if we're trying to kick the sick. That's when maybe your normal once a week wellness mode is gonna not cut it, right? We need to come in here twice or 3 times a week for a week or two to get through that challenge. That's definitely how we handle it in my family, right? If the kids are struggling, they're gonna get checked, maybe adjusted if they need it in the morning, and same thing at nighttime before bed. As much as we have an opportunity, we're gonna keep things draining, keep things moving, because an adjustment is that movement on steroids, right? It's that movement to an even greater degree because it's getting things opening and draining, and it's jump-starting that neurological piece too. So we've got to hit the extra adjustments. That's one we've been talking about a ton with families this week, as we've had so many immune system related conversations with kids struggling. So let's do that, and let's support healing nutritionally, right? We gotta be eating clean. We gotta be fueling our bodies well. Even if there's times where it's okay to have some exceptions and have the pies or have the cheesecakes and have the cocktails, that's okay as a general part of life. It's not okay when we are trying to kick the sick, when we're fighting something off. We wanna get rid of sugar, probably dairy, right? That's a lot of times gonna ramp up mucus and drainage. We want to avoid anything that's going to be making life harder, right? Anything that's going to be creating more of an uphill battle. It's not what we want right now. So we want to get rid of that side of things and support healing with extra supplements. A couple weeks ago, we shared that I had a day and a half, 2 days where I was wiped and dead. And we did exactly this. Rested, I slept pretty much all Thanksgiving Day away. And then Friday, I did some mega dosing of vitamin C, right? I can talk you through what we did with that if you wanted to dig into it more. But we did so much extra vitamin C and apple cider vinegar and vitamin D and zinc and elderberry syrup and raw honey and so many extra things to support my healing, to support my body. And it worked, right? I got through it. A couple days later, was going from can't even really get off the couch and get out of bed to going and getting a Christmas tree and with the family and having fun. So we support healing, we give the body time, and it bounces back. But we need these extra things, right? Support the body with some of the supplements and some of those things too. Oils, right? Essential oils, homeopathic things can be great with there too. Whether it's different breed, respiratory-based ones, or we've used thieves. This just helps overall fight stuff off, antiviral things, colloidal silver. There's a lot of good extra things we can do with that. Because the flip side, the suppression, that has some consequences, right? So what does that look like? Suppression would be we run to just the over-the-counter medication, stuff you might have laying around your house. Or you go and maybe do some of the heavy hitters, the stuff behind the counter that really packs a punch with antibiotics or steroids. Those things should be our last resort. Those should be the once in a blue moon, maybe never Hail Mary, because we really got behind the 8 ball and our kids stuck with something. Because when we do those things, there's a kind of a twofold negative. One, our body doesn't kick the sick, right? Our body's not the one fighting it off. Your immune system gets suppressed, it gets pushed down, right? If you're taking something to stop a fever, that's working directly against your immune cells, right? It's making it harder for your body to fight the invaders. So when we do that, our body doesn't get the reps in, it doesn't build and strengthen from the experience, and we're way more susceptible for the next one, and the next one, and the next one. We just continue on that cycle. Also, it's going to build up resilience. They're going to be less effective because the more we take it, the more we need to take, right? The more that your body builds up that tolerance. And that's a well-known problem that we're dealing with is these superbugs or these antibiotic resistant bacteria that we're finding because we've been using and overprescribing so many medications and antibiotics that has created a whole mess of challenges where when they actually are needed, they don't work anymore. So we want to avoid those things. And you might find, kind of circling back to the understanding part a little bit, you're probably going to find that a kiddo who maybe had more early life challenges is more susceptible to these things. There's maybe a shorter leash, a quicker time frame that they get to the more struggling mode, right? We see all the time babies that had maybe some sort of birth trauma or intervention, or they had some early life struggles, colicky, refluxy, constipated, nursing wasn't so good, or they had ear infections or tonsils, adenoids issues early on in life. We see the kiddos that started with that are the ones that tend to have a harder time kicking the stick because these problems that we see neurologically from the chiropractic perspective have been in there, have been stuck, have been locked in for way too long since day one. So if you see that pattern in your kid, you're not alone, and that points us even more in the direction of we can help and we can do something about it. So that's your takeaway, parents. Build up, don't suppress. And if you're part of our Thrive family already, if you're listening to this and we just were chatting about it this week, use the information, right? Get some extra adjustments, support healing, avoid the crap, avoid the sugar, help your body through these challenges even more. Try to not suppress the things, right? Try to not fight against what your body is trying to do. If you're listening to this and you're not part of your Thrive family, you need to get scanned. You need to get checked out. We need to see what's happening for you and how we can help support your body, your child, your family, whoever's struggling to make sure that they're at their best. And let's say you're tuning in, you're one of the people that found us from afar and you're not within Western Pennsylvania, Ohio, wherever people come from for here, and you want help for your family. Check out the PX Docs directory, right? That is the network of chiropractors who do what we do and who are trained in the scans, who are trained in this neurology in the same way that we are at Thrive. So check them out, punch in your zip code, reach out to us if you need help with that. We'll try to find somebody better that's better able to help, right? We had people just last week, we had someone reach out from Texas because they saw stuff online. Yeah, we'd love to have you come up and move to the wonderful world of Western Pennsylvania and hang out with us here, but it's probably not a part of your plan, right? We want to help find help closer to you. So check out pxdocs.com. And I'm going to link to a little article here too that has more information on this so you can dig into this topic more. Their website's got so many good resources. Dig into there and let's do whatever we can to help your family thrive. Have a great one, guys. We'll see you soon.